Welcome back to another episode of the Evolution Podcast. And this is one you're going to want to listen to intently because I got Landon Peterson with me today. And you guys are probably thinking, well, who's Landon Peterson? Landon Peterson is, if you remember the movie City Slickers, I don't want to say that he's curly because you're a lot nicer than curly. But last year we did a horseback trip with Crooked Sky Outfitters, and Landon is one of the owners of Crooked Sky Outfitters. And he is who took the group of men back on horseback up to his backyard, which is the Bridger-Teton National Forest. And, it's just a really sacred and special place. And today, what I thought would be a really great idea is to just get him on and have a talk with my friend Landon and get you a little taste of the person that you're going to get to hang out with for a couple days up in the mountains. Is that cool, Landon? You up for that?
How about it?
Yeah. Well, we don't have any other options at this point. We're ready. We're jumping out of the plane, man.
No,
Hey,
we're good.
so Landon, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and maybe a little bit about Bridger-Teton and Crooked Sky Outfitter. What do you do?
Well, so for me, I grew up. My parents moved to Cokeville when I was like a year old. My dad grew up here, was born and raised, and then we basically, my dad and myself, I've been involved in the outfitting business since I was as old as I can remember. I mean, going up into camp as a 4-year-old, and my dad got involved before I was born in the early 80s with an uncle, and my uncle had been doing it since the early 60s. And so this particular camp that we have now has been in our hands since about the 80s. And so it's the only camp I really know because it's one I've always gone to.
Yeah.
But in terms of the camp, it's situated on the Bridger-Teton National Forest up on what we call Lake Alice. It's a pretty amazing spot. The lake adds a huge element to the experience that we can share with people. The horses are a critical part of that. I grew up with a big passion for horses. I guess that was, my mom said, even when I was down while they were going to school, that's when I was born, when they were still finishing school. And she said, even not having been around the ranch, like when I go to the store, horses, ag, tractors, that stuff I was just drawn to. And I knew that from when I was before a year old. So it's
Yeah.
just a passion of mine. I love sharing that with people. I love taking people up in the mountains and watching the experience change them. And I mean that wholeheartedly because I've watched men who are big time businessmen who make a lot of money, been ultra successful, that it's just pushed them to their limits of what they're comfortable with. And you see a change happen when people push themselves to that regard.
Yeah. I'll tell you my experience when I first met you guys. We roll up and we're in that, kind of, it's not a parking lot, but it's where all the horses are at the beginning of the trail,
Yeah.
and we get out and you've got your crew there and everybody's, saddling up horses and weighing things and, matching us up with horses. And I thought that was like a really interesting experience because you guys are like, hey, these horses all have personalities and we're going to try to find a horse that we feel like is a good fit for you. They're going to be a part of your experience, like
Yep.
let them do their job. And how do you do that? I mean, is there like some cowboy wisdom that we don't know about, or like how does that process go?
Well, so I wouldn't say there's any national cowboy wisdom, but it's just years of doing it, and not always do you get it right. I mean, I'll be the first to tell you. You try your hardest to pair people up with a horse that you feel like works, but basically, the thing I try to do is evaluate the individual, what their confidence is, just the way they carry themselves ultimately, and then
Yeah.
I know the horses individually, and there are some horses that will bully people. And so
Yeah.
I have to pair those people or those horses up with somebody that's a little more confident in who they are and knowing that they can take control of a situation if they need to.
Yeah.
And so certain horses that I'm not going to put with a timid person who seems to be a little more less confident when it comes to that. And so, I don't know. I guess I've grown up with it, and I appreciate so much about a horse, but I don't know if very many people really understand how individual they are.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about horses. Like, why is the horse such a good animal to bring on this experience? And what happens with men when they get on a horse? Like, do we just grow up and want to like be a cowboy and ride a horse one day from we're little, or what is behind that, do you think?
I think there's something therapeutic. I mean, that's why you'll see the horse riding stuff that they'll use for therapy for people who are struggling with anxiety. There's something calming about the energy that they exude, and I can't really describe it, but the rhythm of the walk, the
Yeah,
smell, the quietness of the trail, like there's just so much of that that helps you slow down, evaluate life, and you get a lot of time to think to yourself. But then there's that connection you feel with that horse as you understand that there's an animal of intelligence that's functioning with you in partnership. They don't want to die just as bad as you don't.
yeah,
And sometimes as
yeah.
a individual on their back, you don't recognize that, especially if you haven't ridden them very often. And so it's just something that I don't know. I think it's pretty amazing, really, in that connection that you establish with a horse. I know, like when I used to work my full time job, when I moved away for a while to save up enough money to buy a ranch and do all the stuff I love to do, I would come home, and when I'd get on the back of a horse, I just felt like I was wound so tight that, my brain was going a million miles an hour. I had a lot of stress, a lot of frustration. And then the longer I rode the trail and I dealt with the horses, like they're just honest individuals that truly enjoy what they do. And that
Yeah.
rubs off on you and it helps you slow down. So,
Yeah, I think when we got to the trailhead, I'll be honest, that was the first time I'd been on a horse since I was 15 years old with the scouts. And there was a little bit in me where I was like, okay, this will kind of be interesting. It's been a long time since I've been on a horse. And I got paired up with Big Ma. And I remember I went up to Big Ma and I said, look, here's the deal. You know the trail better than I do. I'm not trying to do anything crazy here. If you respect me, I'll respect you. Let's go on a ride together. And Big Ma was perfect for me. Big Ma gave me a great experience, just solid. I remember there was a time on that day we went on a horseback ride, up that mountain where it was kind of warm that day and the horses were sweating and you could hear them breathing. And I remember there was this moment of like gratitude that I had where I was like, what an amazing animal. This animal is taking me up a mountain that would not be an easy hike to go on. And I'm getting to see some of the prettiest backcountry I've ever seen in my life. And this horse has taken me through it. And it just was like this moment where I was like, the dust is flying and, all that stuff. And I just was thinking, this is good for my soul. This was a really great, it doesn't go away with you, like you don't forget it, you
yeah.
know?
Well, and
It's
that's,
awesome.
that experience of watching. I think the thing that's really cool to me is feeling the heartbeat of the horse when you get chugging up the hill and then you feel him breathing, you feel the heartbeat.
Yeah.
And, there's to me, I get to where I appreciate so much of who they are and the work ethic that they have. And I had mentioned this earlier, the honesty that they deal with humans. They're not usually counterfeit in the way they interact with you. They're going to let you know how they feel about things. And I don't know, I gained so much appreciation. I loved them, like I said, from when I was little. But the more I get to ride them, the more I get to have that connection with them. I have my favorites, but overall, I watch horses that just take care of people. And there are some of them that genuinely do care. And then I have some that I have to watch because they'll try to rub you off on a tree and they'll be a little sneaky that way. And so, but most of them are going to treat you right. So,
So I got a question for you. As you know, this is something you've been doing for most of your life. When you say you run an outfit, the translation of that is you take people up into the wilderness and you specialize in bow hunts and rifle hunts, correct?
yeah, and fishing trips. Yeah.
And fishing trips. Awesome. So I guess you've been doing this for a long time, and I think you've already kind of led on to some of these things. But what is the thing, the man that he doesn't know what he's missing by not going on this that you've experienced and like time and time again? You talked about when you get on a horse, it just kind of would like unwind you, and that being on the trail and just feeling the pace of the horse and being in nature. I'll tell you, the saddle time is incredible time to just think and
Yeah.
just be. Uh, what advice would you give a guy that's thinking about coming on this trip, but maybe he's got some like things that are maybe like, I don't know about this or riding a horse, I haven't done that in a while, or what advice would you give to somebody like that?
we take all different types of people and we see them come away successful in the regards of they conquer their
Yeah.
fears in a lot of cases. And I've seen grown men cry on the mountain where they've been pushed to that level that they're not comfortable with. But ultimately, I think it just helps you find, I don't know, it's very grounding. It is the word I could use. There's, I don't know, I mean, like you say, the time in the saddle, the quietness of the nature, there's something spiritual, I will say, about the mountains that awakes something in your soul. And so it's hard to really know what you're missing until you come and experience it. And I'll tell you, we have so many people who come and experience it one time and then they're coming back and they're coming back and they're coming back because it becomes something that they yearn for. And I feel the same when I'm not up on the mountain right now because of the snow and the weather, but you get to where you yearn for that. It's a healing opportunity for you to really, like you said, ground with what's most important in life and think about that.
Yeah, I got a question for you around that about being grounded and connected to the earth, right? What is it about being a cowboy that every man kind of has a part of their heart where they're like, that's the life, right? Like, and by the way, I know it's a ton of work, Landon. I see how hard you guys work.
Yeah.
It's impressive. The crew that you have, the experience you provide for us. I mean, those guys are working. Even that one guy, how old was he? 15 years old?
Yeah.
Uh, that guy, he's a man. He's 15 years old and he's doing everything the guys it was impressive. It was so impressive.
Well, and I think, oftentimes when you're away from it, there's that tendency to romanticize the cowboy life. But I'll tell you, Brian, one of the things that I believe, and I've heard a lot of people say, a good horse is made from a lot of wet saddle blankets. And what that means is that horse becomes good from repetitive use, doing hard things, pushing the
Yep.
limits, what they're capable of. And, humans are no different. Some of the best people that I've ever been around are those ranchers who work hard and money is not the driving force. Like it's about getting the job done and doing it right. And it becomes a part of who they are. And so, like, I oftentimes think that we're fortunate being raised where we are because I just kind of expected. It's the culture. It's what happens. But there's some aspect of physical work that translates to your confidence and your self-esteem and what you can accomplish in a day without having the mighty dollar hang over your head and driving you to perform every single day because of that. And so, when you've got livestock that depend on you in the middle of a blizzard to be fed, I mean, that's just different. Like money just doesn't motivate you. It's because you care about the animals you're taking care of. You're concerned about their welfare. And so it changes your perspective, I think, on life. But, the physical work is a hard thing to replace. And I would say that wet saddle blankets make for good horses and hard work makes for good people. I think there's a direct correlation there.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. One of my favorite things that we do every night, at the end of the night, we just sit around a campfire and we just talk around the campfire. And that really was one of my favorite things about that experience. It's just the sky at night up there is just something else. Not a lot of lights going on out there. So
Right.
you get to see the sky for what it is. You can see the Milky Way. It's just it's amazing those spaces. We unfortunately as a society we don't do that enough, I don't think. You know?
Yeah.
I one of the things that I enjoyed most was just having a space to be. I didn't feel like I had to be anywhere for a couple days. And I just got to go and exist and be out in nature and the people that you have up there, I just applaud you. They're like first class people. They all are looking for ways to make it a great experience for us. The cooks you have up there, some of the best food I've had in a long time. Actually already looking forward to it
Well, we start
coming
out
back there.
tasting good. When you're hungry, anything tastes good.
It
No,
was good.
we have a phenomenal cook. Our crew is really good, and that's one of the things we're blessed with. with good people that surround us.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely a part. You become the average of the 5 people you hang around the most. And I
Mhm.
think there's a lot of subconscious things that happen, as you're able to rub shoulders with good people. You don't
Yeah.
realize that impact. Sitting around a fire, I always say there's definitely something about a fire that brings out people, out of their shell, get them talking. I mean, it's very much like sitting with a counselor, if you like, as you watch the fire dance and you think of how amazing it is that the fire works and you feel the heat. Like you watch people open up, you watch
Yeah.
people share things around the fire that they would normally keep close to their chest. And so the whole experience, to me, is what is healing for people. The horses, the fires, the food, the food's all home cooked. It's not, run through the fast food, and the pace is very different. Like you say, it's, time, you're not sitting there looking at your clock saying, what do I have next hour? What do I have here? It just,
Mm.
time just slows down and it seems to no longer matter. And you're disconnected. You don't have your phone buzzing in your pocket. The next person calling you about your appointment that you missed. People honking their horn while you're waiting in line. I mean, there's just so much about it just slower paced, and it makes a big impact on people.
Yeah, it makes a gigantic impact on people. Well, Landon, we're in the process of getting our group together. I'm looking forward to this trip. I would actually say more than the last trip, because the last trip I didn't really know what I was getting into, other than my good buddy Adrian said, "We got to do this. Let's go."
Yeah.
And but what I'm finding is like this. I am that guy that you just talked about. I am the guy that's saying, "Yeah, when is July 29th going to be coming around? How many more months do we got?" And I want to let you know, Landon, you guys run a first class experience. And I think that, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys, seeing the crew again, learning, honestly, just learning and being present. I mean, I actually remember when we had that conversation, it was after the trip, and I called you just to check in, just how are things going. And we had that conversation about a wet blanket makes a good horse. And it's a really good reminder. There's times where, there's this book called The Comfort Crisis, and it talks about how as a society, we've just gotten so soft, right? Like
Yeah.
everything's kind of done for us. I turn on my faucet and the water turns on, and I flip the light switch and the light switch goes on. I turn up my heater. I turn up turn down my AC. My house is regulated, right? I mean, to some extent, people, right? They're not even doing their yard work anymore, right? They've got someone
Right.
to come and do that. And we've landed in this place as a society where we've gotten so good at doing, we have forgot the art of being and what happens when you do hard work. And I just think it's such an important ingredient to this thing called life. And you know what I love? Like, it's not that you guys are making us do hard work up there, but we're around it. We're in an environment that's just different from what
Yeah.
we're used to, like you said, in the city life every day, right?
Yeah. It's definitely, it's not easy, and that's, we get a lot of people be like, "Man, that trip costs a lot." And like, yeah, we understand. We'd love to be able to do it at a reasonable price, but when you've got horses that, never stop eating, and you've got, trucks and trailers, and then the physical, every ounce of food that is fed in their horses and humans comes from the labor of somebody packing it in there.
Yeah.
Those horses handle it, we handle it. There's a lot that goes into it to make it all come together, and
Yeah.
a lot of early mornings and late nights, and, splitting firewood by hand. And there's just I don't know. I just think
Well,
there's,
I was going to tell you, I remember one night we ended up having ribs, but it was with something else. And I was like, this is amazing. And then the cook says, well, yeah, last night, I forgot your father's name. I'm sorry. Yeah, Stu. She said
yeah,
last night Stuart had somebody ride out and, the 7 miles out
yeah,
and go to the store and get some more food just because he felt like, we should probably do a little bit more in this thing. And I remember thinking, like, who does that? I mean, that is not like a quick trip around the corner to the grocery store. That is a half day experience on a fast trip.
yeah,
And it's
yeah. It was a
just like,
5 hour turnaround. 2 hours out, an hour to the store, an hour back, and then two. I guess you'd say 6 hours. So I mean, it was. It was quite a trip.
And the thing is most people didn't even know. Like, I wouldn't have known if I didn't ask, but I remember thinking it's like, that's the caliber of the experience that, we get. Crooked Sky Outfitters, actually, I wanted to tell you this story too. So I don't expect you to remember this, but my dad's like, not, he's getting older now, so he doesn't do it as much, but he was pretty big into hunting, and he would go to, get shows that they would put on where there'd be outfitters and stuff.
Yep.
And after we did the trip, I told him like where we went, and I said, yeah, we went with Crooked Sky Outfitters. He knew exactly who you guys were.
Oh, really?
And it was in that moment where I was like, "Oh, these guys kind of are like a big deal in the hunting and gaming world." Now, you don't walk around and tote it like that, but I mean, I think people don't understand, like, we really are going with like a first class experience, and well, they will understand once they go, that's the truth. So anyway, I just wanted to give you that compliment. Like, your business is very well respected in the industry by lots of people, and people know who you are. So it's awesome. Well done.
Appreciate appreciate that, Brian. It's definitely, we haven't been the best at marketing. Sometimes the people that are, maybe have something to hide, but not always is that true. But I mean, I guess that's not been our focus of the trip. It's really about the people and the horses and the experience.
Yep.
And so we haven't probably done ourselves a favor in the way we present it to people. And as such, it's been what we call a labor of love. Growing up, my mom really despised the outfit because it just didn't make for much for money. It was more about doing it out of love and passion than it was trying to turn a buck. And
Mhm.
so that's kind of, I guess, what I've seen and grown up. And I've been fortunate to have an amazing father who was able to share with me what was really most important in life. And so,
Yeah.
I just feel grateful that I've had the opportunity to rub shoulders with my dad and doing the thing that I love. And so, really, I could care less about, the financial end of things because I really have reaped the reward of the way of life that I've been blessed to live.
Yeah. So this is the point where I think I just want to extend the invitation to anybody. If you're listening to this right now and this is something you would sounds interesting to you, we actually only have 6 spots available. Like, we take a group of, it's 12 to 15 depending on, right, the group size, but it's usually not more than 15. And we have about 6 spots left right now. So if someone's been thinking about it, this would be the time to say yes for sure. And Landon, I just want to express my gratitude to you, and for doing what you do, and for creating a space for us to do this. Because what I remember, I was reading something a while ago, and it was talking about, it was this marketer actually, and he was talking about, he says it's a lot easier to sell how to and experiences than fix you, right? And I remember when I read it, I was like, that feels true to me, because the reality is nobody wants to feel like they need to be fixed, or like they're
Right.
broken, or, something's inherently wrong with them. It is a weird energy, like, if you walk around feeling like that all the time, right? And we all have stuff that's happened to us in our lives and experiences we've had that make us who we are, right? What I love about this embodiment experience is that so much of the experience nature is doing, the horses are doing. It's just really like it really is, like you explained so well. It's a disconnect. And I kind of feel like it's the how to be experience. And it's an experience that you'll have and you will reflect back on. I mean, when you're sitting in your office, or you're about ready to go into a meeting, or whatever, you'll just kind of be like, oh man, I'm really looking forward to that, because I know what I have to go to and towards. And I just want to tell you thank you, because I feel like it's really enhanced my life. And it's something, that group that went, half of the guys that went are going to come back again, to prove your point of what you're saying, right? So we're really
Well,
looking forward to it. Anything else you want to share before we kind of wrap things up?
I guess for me, the thing I'd like to, I guess, share is we have that passion. If you didn't already tell, that's, well, for us, outfitting, taking people on horseback up on the mountains is a passion. And that's something that we love and feel grateful we have the opportunity to do. But for us, ultimately, is the opportunity that we have to see God's hand in our lives and recognize who the ultimate creator is.
Yeah.
And as you get a ride on the back of a horse and you watch the beauty of the mountains, it really helps you, redirect your priorities. of what's most important in life, as you recognize where you sit in the grand scheme of things, and you have an opportunity to look to the stars in the dark at night and wonder how it was all created. And so ultimately it becomes that time in your life when you can evaluate, where you sit spiritually, and how you're doing in regards to communicating with the man upstairs. I think oftentimes we get so fast tracked in the pace of life that, we lose, our direction, our compass. And so, that's what we hope. We can just reignite that fire, that desire to maybe turn to the man upstairs and let him have a hand in your life.
I just want to say amen. There's nothing else to say after that. That's the truth. That's the real truth. We can see the hand in God in our life every day. That's the game changer, you know? So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
Well, my hope is that this conversation is going to get to the right people that are like, yeah, that's exactly what I need. I'm ready. I'm ready to go do that. Landon, thank you for your time today. Always looking forward to this summer.
I'm excited. It'll be a fun trip. Anytime I can be on the mountain on the back of a horse, I'm happy. Looking forward to it.
Let's go.